Okay, then let's talk about New Zealand at the Rugby World Cup. My report card, I'll give them a mark out of 10 for their efforts. We'll talk about how they came into the World Cup, how they performed, and then what the future looks like as well. And this is genuinely a really tough one to assess. I've got no idea what the mood in New Zealand, what the thoughts about this team this year are now. Because coming into the tournament, it was described in some quarters as the worst All Black team of all time. And the bonkers thing is that may even be true. I'd love to know what you think about that. Because whilst Ian Foster delivered in the last 4 years, 4 Freedom Cups, 4 Bledisloes, 4 Rugby Championships, or I think one of them might have been a Tri-Nations, mightn't it? And got as close as you can get to winning a World Cup without actually winning a World Cup. And I thought that's a bit harsh, describing it as the worst New Zealand team of all time. I had a look at his win percentage, 70%, which sounds pretty good, doesn't it? And it is for basically any other nation but New Zealand. The expectation and the standards that have been set by previous teams means that 70% is not great. Steve Hansen, Sir Steve Hansen before, had 87%, Graham Henry 85%, John Mitchell 82%, Wayne Smith is comparable with Ian Foster, 71%, John Hart 76%. You have to go back to 1992 to 1995 and Laurie Mains for a win percentage lower than Ian Foster's. Could you argue that he hasn't had the quality of players that previous coaches have had? Maybe. Could you also argue, and I think this is a fair point, that the standard of international rugby generally has gone up in recent years? I think this is, and the context of New Zealand's campaign is that this is one of the most, if not the most competitive Rugby World Cups we've ever had. 4 outstanding teams who are kind of away on their own, but then a big pack of high quality teams chasing them down, not too far behind, who are all capable of causing an upset. So maybe the negativity towards Ian Foster in this New Zealand team was slightly exaggerated, but then again, you have to say, once they got that absolute beat down at Twickenham before the World Cup, pants pulled down by South Africa, you can understand why the sense of negativity grew. It does look now in hindsight, doesn't it, like that was maybe a loading phase in training and that may have affected them, and just getting off the plane from New Zealand may have still been in their legs. So maybe that's a context. But then, of course, when they lost, was it 1 week or 2 weeks later? I can't remember how close to the World Cup that was. Maybe a fortnight later, wasn't it? They lost to France in that opening night. Then suddenly New Zealand were, and I was as guilty of anyone of doing this on the channel, New Zealand was kind of regarded as just a tiny step below those top 3 teams, Ireland, France, South Africa. New Zealand kind of went under the radar after that point. And boy, did they show everyone else up with their performances subsequent to that. Absolutely hammering Italy, spanking Uruguay. They did really, really well. And then there was that performance in the World Cup quarter-final. Absolutely mesmeric. There were individuals on the field that night that had their best performance in an All Black jersey. Sam Cane. You hope he can be remembered for that performance and not for the red card in the final, although I think that will be his the defining memory of Sam Cane, unfortunately for him. Although he may be back, he may make some more memories. We'll talk about that in a little bit. But that performance in Paris, one of the greatest, well, maybe the greatest weekend of rugby, certainly that I've ever seen, maybe ever. Just a pleasure to be out in France there. I wasn't, unfortunately, in Paris to watch that game. I wish I was. I was in Marseille doing the other quarterfinals. But what a match, what a performance for New Zealand. And they even managed to contribute a few homeborn sons of their own to the Irish team and still managed to beat them. What was heartbreaking for Ireland, an incredible performance for New Zealand. And when you then think that South Africa stuttered against England and New Zealand cruised past Argentina, they actually went into the World Cup final as favourites. From where they were, that was remarkable. As it is, we know what happened in the final. Heartbreaking defeat, narrow loss. They gave absolutely everything. What lessons could you learn from it? Well, it still feels harsh to say it now because they did do so well in that final, but maybe one lesson, take the 3. Always take the 3. Ask New Zealand in the quarter-final against New Zealand, take the 3. New Zealand in the final against South Africa, take the 3. But hey, we'll never know what might have been. But I think it's a successful World Cup campaign, all things considered, very successful. And for that reason, I would give New Zealand an 8 out of 10. I'd love to know what you think. Leave your comments. If you haven't already, hit subscribe in the channel. Give the video a thumbs up. That helps spread the word. But when you look to the future, again, what was the negativity towards Ian Foster justified when you look back in the cold light of day? Maybe. There's a lot of the players that Ian Foster had access to that the next coach, Scott Robertson, will not. There's a few of them there. Sam Whitelock, Sam Cane, Beauden Barrett, Brodie Retallick, and others. Now, this always happens after a World Cup with New Zealand. They have their policy of players have to play in New Zealand to play for the All Blacks, and that preserves the quality of the Super Rugby franchises there. And I get that. And also, they have a really good open dialogue with their players about going and having sabbaticals and basically, go and earn some corn, go and earn some money, and then come back. So I don't know which of the players are fully retired, like I think Aaron Smith is, and which could be back. Because if you look at the ages of the team that were in that World Cup final the other week, I think it would be Brodie Retallick, Cody Taylor, and Beauden Barrett would all be 36 at the next World Cup. They would be the eldest of the guys that were out there for them. I mean, maybe 36 as an international fullback, pushing it a little bit. You need a little bit more gas. But Brodie Retallick could still do it if he wanted to. And Cody Taylor as well, as a hooker. I see absolutely no reason. We've had Augustine Crevi playing international rugby at age 38 for Argentina. Why not? That said, they do have talent coming through. I think of all the players that are going off on sabbaticals, you've got Richie Mo'unga. He's 28 years of age. 29 years of age. He will be 33 at the next World Cup. The same age Dan Carter was in 2015, by the way. So Richie Mo'unga could come back nearer to a World Cup to try and stake a claim for that 10 jersey again. The same could well be true for who else is on a sabbatical. Sam Cane, we know, is only on a 1-year one, so he could be back for international rugby, the start of the next international rugby window. Shannon Frizzell going to France, that's one. That will be a big disappointment, I think. I think a lot of them you kind of understand. Shannon Frizzell having just finally found someone to take on the mantle of Jerome Kaino, Jerry Collins, someone who made that 6 jersey his own and had that identity of a New Zealand 6. That will be a big blow that he's going to France. And this is one thing I was going to say about these players going off on sabbaticals. I think it's great that New Zealand just go, go, earn your money. You've got to. Your career's short. One injury could end it all. Japan is a great place for them to go and play because you get good money. But it's a relatively light workload. It's a short season. And that's why for Richie Mo'unga, for Brodie Retallick, for Beauden Barrett, hey, they could go and come back again. Shannon Frizzell, with the combative nature of player that he is, I mean, he's only 29 years of age right now, I think, so he's got time. But the top 14 in France puts a lot of miles on the clock of players that play there. It really does. It is a brutal competition, a proper meat grinder, week after week after week for 9 months or more. And New Zealand just have to hope that they get him back in the same condition that he's gone to France in. It may well not be the case. That said, Scott Robertson, he's got a load of players to pick from. I think that back row area is the one area I'm a little bit unsure about. You'd think maybe Tupou Vaa'i will come in at second row. You've got Taukeaho who's ready to take over the reins at hooker, although Cody Taylor would have something to say about that. Auma as well. What happened to him? I really liked him a couple of years back. But back row, Ethan Blackadder, Dalton Papali'i, can they fill these jerseys and make them their own? Who are the other stars that are coming up behind them? I think 10, it's fine. Damien McKenzie. 9, Cam Roigard, and there are others. Back 3, fine. You'll have Will Jordan going to fullback and Sean Stevenson maybe on the wing. Maybe Emoni Narawa. New Zealand have got loads of quality players. And in Scott Robertson, they seem to have a guy that everyone is massively positive about and who is a winner. And that's what New Zealand want. Ruthless winners. That's the DNA. That's what they've come to expect. Can Scott Robertson deliver? He's got a little bit of time before we're going to find out. But I think most New Zealanders from that I've spoken to and that I hear from in the channel are very, very positive about the future. What are your thoughts on it? Leave your comments. Again, as I say, if you haven't already, hit subscribe. More videos coming soon. See you on the next one.